nothing. This was the furthest thing from my mind as a child. I grew up in the church, grew up at New Sunlight where I pastor now. J.R. Williams was our pastor, wonderful man of God. I would mimic him, when I would go home, but we're just mimicking. There's nothing here. Enjoyed myself as a young man. I can recall we were at Godfather's Pizza on Highland Road, and it was a class function. And one of the young ladies, Valerie, looks at me and she says, "Well, Dale, in every class there's a preacher." And I looked at her and I had a slice of pizza in one hand and beer in the other hand. And I took a gulp of my beer and said, "Yeah, you're right, but it won't be me." And about 10 years later, it was me. I got to call to ministry when I was at New St. John under W. Marshall Miles. Preached my first sermon in January of 1996. Started pastoring at New Sunlight in the year 2000, followed J.R. Williams, and then I came up here to Redwood, been here 10 years now. So I started here in 2016. 2016 will be my 10th year this January here at Redwood. Yes, I grew up in mid-city of Baton Rouge. My mother still lives in the home I grew up in on St. Rose Avenue. So grew up running around here and went to Dufrock Elementary, Westdale Middle School. I went there when it was a junior school. My 7th grade year, the next year became a middle school. So I was there for the last year of the junior high school and the first year of the middle school at Westdale. Went on to Tara High School for 2 years. Then I transferred to McKinley and I graduated from McKinley. Went on to Southern University. Didn't graduate, kicked around for a while, finally got back in school, and I graduated in mass communication. It's my degree, yeah. Got a degree in mass communication. Went on to New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary and got my Master's of Divinity. Yeah, you see them in just about any and everywhere. You go into a rural area, and even in the city of Baton Rouge, there's a plantation, I think it's the Magnolia Plantation, that's right there on Nicholson Drive. So you've got plantations, all over Louisiana. Again, rural areas and urban areas, they are a fact of life. They are our history. So we're not surprised to see one. Initially, when I actually saw it on Facebook, and I just kind of scrolled past it. Okay, so it's on fire, and I didn't think it was as severe as it was. And then when I get back on Facebook and I begin to scroll, oh man, this place is going down. It is burning down. And then I began to read the comments and saw how, some people were like, "Hey, pass the marshmallows." And other folks were, just extremely upset, highly upset that this structure that is a sign of horrors, a sign of slavery, a sign of dehumanizing individuals, that they were actually horrified that it was being destroyed by fire. I think it's because of the way that we view history and our different views of history. Some are nostalgic about that time of slavery, that time in the antebellum South, where there was an obvious display of the superiority, white supremacy, and of the second class, and even the dehumanizing of black people, where they were just like property, branded. We think now, and I think when we look at the Nottoway Plantation, the fact that it's been reimagined, it's been rebranded. When I think rebranding, I think, no, there were folks who were actually branded on that plantation, where someone took a hot iron and put their initials or whatever the symbol was of their ownership on that individual. And that person had no rights of his or her own, just cattle, property is what they were. And there's nothing to celebrate about that. We don't look back at that as a time of celebration, as a time of joy. It's a time of pain. It's a time of sorrow. It's a time of disgust is what it is. But that story needs to be told, not to romanticize it as so many are doing it. And those who have romanticized that era and even have dismissed it, because we also have to remember that because our history is not accurately told, some people can have this fantasy of what it was instead of the reality of what it was. It's painful, but it's there for us to experience it, and it's there for us to remember how people were treated, how our ancestors were treated. I've gone, I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna take Redwood, I'm gonna take New Sunlight. We need to see these things. We went with our children and took them, and just to see their faces, and some of them who had no idea because it had not been taught to them, and to see their faces and to see them, you know, begin to become inquisitive and ask questions. Well, why was this? And how did this happen? So Whitney is an experience that everyone should have. I think everyone should actually experience and see it. It's great to read it in a book. I'm an advocate of books. Read, educate yourself. But here's an instance where you can actually, for me, I mean, I felt it just being there, just to imagine what people went through and to see the slave quarters, to see the sleeping quarters, to see the church, to see the chains, to see the shackles, to see a box, I'll call it, where they would house individuals. It's something to see. It's something to experience. And I think everyone should.
History.
I think all of it. I think from the moment I walked on that plantation and begin to read the history, and then to have the guide walk us through it and explain it to us, and to have these, you know, visualizations in the church. There are these statues of children who, you know, are scantily clad in sacks and whatnot, and they're seated in different places or standing, you know, in a church like this. And to think that 100 years ago, you know, and more, that people were worshiping God even though they were slaves. And now we have the freedom to worship him, but just to see that, and to see again the sleeping quarters, to see the shackles, just to see it all. It's something to see, but it's not an easy visitation. Well, Whitney tells the truth. Tells us, it gives us a visual history of America, a visual history of that plantation. Whereas Nottoway, and I only now that I go and read because of the fire, you know, Nottoway was used as a Airbnb. It was used as a place to have weddings. It was used, I know I read that there are 16 trees or whatever, maybe oaks and whatnot, and the trees are named, but you don't have any of the names of the people who were on that plantation, that built that plantation. And I honestly thought, I wonder how many people hung from those trees. I remember we're looking at these beautiful oak trees, but those trees may very well have been used to hang people. And we're naming the trees, but not the people. So again, it's the reimagining. Just use it to tell the truth, not to, you know, give someone a beautiful place to have a wedding. It should be preserved in a way where it tells the truth about it. Rebuild it. I mean, slaves built that building. Slaves are not going to build this building. He wants to rebuild a plantation, and he wants to rebuild a place where he can have weddings and Airbnb. It won't be the building that our ancestors built. So knock yourself out. Rebuild it. But it won't be built by slaves. It won't be built on the blood, sweat, tears, and pains of slaves.
Put this building together.
Yes, and not so much the building. This building was built in '62, but Redwood itself, the church, was organized in 1857. So at the same time, I think Nottoway, from what I read, was built, they started building in 1857 and completed in 1859. So while they were on the west side of the Mississippi building the plantation, slaves were doing that. Slaves over here were organizing the church. And that church still stands now in 2025. And the people, and when I say the church, the people are still here, whereas that plantation has been destroyed.
The other way.
Yes, yes. Redwood started out actually as a church and a school because it was also a place where you got to remember at that time, black folks were not being educated. It was against the law for black people to read and to write. Black people are the only people in this country where laws were passed where we could not read or write. The indigenous people were, in order to assimilate, they had schools to teach them to read and to write and to become a part of America, whereas it was against the law to even teach black people, to allow black people to read and to write. So the church, Redwood, was organized as a church and a school for black people. We've got, as a matter of fact, a member, Brother Worthy, who told me some time ago that he actually went to school here at Redwood. He went to school here and then he started coming to church and became a member. But Redwood does today what it did then. We're still preaching, we're still worshiping, we're still teaching, we're still in the community, we're still serving, we're still doing everything that God calls us to do. Whereas that plantation now, thank God in 1865, stopped doing, and I'll say temporarily, because then Jim Crow came into place and those individuals were put right back on that plantation because they couldn't go anywhere else to work, and they would put them back on that plantation. Some maybe became sharecroppers. Some were just working just to put food on the table. But that is no more, and the church still stands. Well, I believe they know. I believe our ancestors are present. Scripture even says that there is a great cloud of witnesses as we run this race. And I believe that they are looking down on us today and are well pleased with some of us and the work that we're doing, but not so happy with others of us and the foolishness that we have gotten in and how we're living our lives. But I believe that they are well pleased. I believe that when they look at Redwood and churches like Redwood, that they can see that their legacy is being carried on, that God is still being praised, he's still being served, the community is still being served, and the work that they started, that they organized in 1857 is still going on today.
That you share with them.
Oh, I tell them everything. We talk about slavery itself and what it meant then and how there are even vestiges today of slavery that we still have to deal with. We talk about Jim Crow. We talk about the civil rights struggle. We talk about even now where affirmative action has been taken away and fair housing, where we see the voting rights. All those things that are being taken away are again in things that help lift black people that are now going to be used to push us down and to keep us down. And it's not going to affect folks of my generation, but our children, our grandchildren are going to be affected by what happens now. And that's why we've got to fight to ensure that they have the same rights that we had, because now they actually don't. They have less rights now than I had 30 or 40 years ago. I'm hopeful, but I am not optimistic. I think that as a society, we've all run to our corners and no one wants to even have the conversation, the honest conversation. It's going to be painful for both sides. It's going to be a moment where we have to come to terms with what has taken place and looking at our history to acknowledge this is why we are where we are today. It certainly needs to happen, but I'm not optimistic that it will happen. We have to use these moments, even though I don't know if we'll be able to have that conversation and move forward. We should at least use it to teach. We should use it. There should be opportunities, spaces for people to learn. There should be opportunities and spaces for people to share. There should be opportunities and spaces for people to know what transpired, why it transpired. And we even talk about history now. It struck me that some of the same people who are trying to erase history well, you're going to make white children uncomfortable if you teach the truth. But now those are the same people that are crying about the Nottoway Plantation. I mean, make it make sense. Let's teach the truth, and as we teach the truth, we can all grow. I'm really sick and tired of the propaganda that is American history that's being taught in our schools. I myself had to unlearn a lot of the stuff I was taught and teach myself and begin to read and study for myself, and it shouldn't be that way. We should just lay it out, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then work together to ensure that America is what it was intended to be. It does. There's no doubt about it. I mean, right now we're teaching a history that glorifies one race and the humans another race. We have a history now where white men created, founded, established everything. And indigenous people, black people, brown people, and women didn't do anything. Let's just tell the truth. We all are a part of the building of this country. We are all responsible for what America is. So why tell one side and whitewash it? Let's tell it all and show that, you know what, just as there was and I don't want to call it teamwork, but just as there was work, there was an ability to work together, you know, it was forced on some of us, that ability was there, and we can do it today.